How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. We are going to get straight into it with a market update for you guys. Currently on TradingView, and we're really just going to touch on Bitcoin and Ethereum's performance right now. But I also want to do a little segment based on what we are going to be doing for the bear market. I'm going to be giving you guys consistent content for the bear market so we can capitalize on that as much as we possibly can. We'll get more into that as well. So I want to really cover what's happening with the market right now. What do I see being thrown around with those who have 8 years of experience? We're going to look at a bunch of different perspectives today. But again, we're just going to be really just taking a deep dive into where things are currently at. Is there anything planned in the future that's going to potentially impact the market, etc. We're first going to take a look at Bitcoin. So here is Bitcoin currently, guys, on the 1-day time frame. Now I have drawn out this demand zone that I have kind of taken the definition of a demand zone from that of a well-respected or a trader who is good at his craft. Kind of controversial in what he says, though. But I kind of learned this from him. So essentially what we are seeing here in what I classify as a demand zone, we're just going to really touch on that so you understand what I'm talking about here real quick. A demand zone, in my opinion, is when we have a sharp move up, as you can see here, followed by consolidation, followed by another sharp move up. This is a demand zone. So currently we had a demand zone from my definition. From mid-April to the beginning of May, we kind of had this move up, consolidation, and another move up. This would be our demand zone, if you can understand what that means. Now, what this means and what a demand zone essentially is it's a place where price likes to revisit and tap into. Now, I'm not going to provide any examples in today's video. If you are wanting more deep dive into trading, I will have something planned for that in the future. I do not feel comfortable giving you guys like a full in-depth guide of trading until I master it myself. That would just not be authentic to do. So with all that being said, what are we looking for here when a demand zone is created? Well, a demand zone in this case is an area where price essentially supposedly will go back and revisit. So we have this massive demand zone here. We are simply waiting for price to eventually come back and revisit the demand zone. And in what I have learned, the demand zone is invalidated if more than 50% of it gets filled or tapped into. Meaning, if we have price come down, and let's say this is 50%, but it comes down 75% before moving back up, we would delete this demand zone and it would not be a demand zone anymore. So this essentially is an area where we do expect at some point in time price to revisit and potentially fill into. And then I believe there is one on the lower time frame. I'd say this is a demand zone, but if you look, it looks like this demand zone was taken out. Why? Move up, consolidation, move up yet again. And then we'd have to go back to see if there's really any more of those. But I'd say the major one we have here is around this $97,000 to $92,000 per Bitcoin level, in my opinion. So with all that being said, let's now look at where we're currently trading within Bitcoin. Now, these black lines I've drawn out are simple support and resistance lines. I believe I have drawn this one out. Let's take a look. You guys can see this is technically not a demand zone, by the way, but I'm almost predicting it to become one if we are to move up and potentially hit like $127,000 per Bitcoin, right? Because remember, we are waiting for something like this, a move up, which we had, kind of consolidation with a followed by another move up. So if we move up, I would say this is demand zone per my definition, and then price would eventually revisit that area again. So this is kind of what I'm looking for, something around this where we push back up with Bitcoin. And I did just make a very simple support and resistance line, as you guys can see. I kind of just did it off of candle closes. Realistically, a box might be better to draw out for this, but you can see we came up, rejected, had a candle open. We closed down here though, so we rejected off this line as well. We pushed up, so we closed above, came down, closed right on the line, pushed off, so rejected off of it again, rejected off of it again, rejected off of it again, rejected off of it again. This time we did close below the line, but now in around 6 hours, we will see if we close above that. It looks like 117,000 line again. This isn't a perfect line, by the way. A lot of people are going to have it differently. Maybe someone wouldn't even, draw this out in the first place. And then you could say this 119K is a resistance level. And this is partially due, in my opinion, to 120,000 being a psychological level, as it is a round whole number that is pretty prominent. So that is kind of where we're looking for Bitcoin currently in terms of just, where it's currently trading. What I expect to see is, again, I expect to see a potential move up to 127K, and then we'll see what happens with that. It's just honestly going to be tough to tell. Again, with my limited knowledge and experience, there's not really much that I can essentially give off. We're obviously trading above these EMAs here, which is pretty prominent. And for any, weakening buy pressure to move into strong sell pressure, if we get closes below these EMAs, then that might be concerning if you're using that as a confluence. And again, I'll have to go in and really just help, or I'll just kind of explain everything that I'm looking for when I'm looking at these charts. But I do think that there's definite potential for us to continue moving upwards. I'd say is like the biggest takeaway that you could take from my own unique perspective. Now, I do have a lot of people sharing the same mindset where they are expecting Bitcoin to come and touch around this $127,000 range, $128,000 range. However, there are some people who do see potentially this range of 127K, 128K to be a top, right? To be our cycle top. So I know there's a lot of different perspectives on it. I know people who see 150K being a possibility. I know people who see 200K being a possibility. But I also know that there's people with a lot of experience saying that in a short period of time, we could see a top come out, at least for Bitcoin. And so it's something to keep in mind. It's obviously going to be a gradual shift. I guess we'll see. It could be just a sharp movement downwards, but we're honestly going to have to see how this all plays out. But I'm pretty excited to see what happens here. Bitcoin, of course, it's looking pretty good. At least we're, again, on the higher time frames, we're doing pretty well. On the 4-hour time frame, though, you guys can see we do technically have a break of structure, a bearish break of structure here. So this is a tad bit concerning, but again, the 1-day time frame, we're still waiting for a lot of higher confluences and more price action to play out to really get a firm stance on the markets. So as you can see, we had higher highs being created, followed by, as you can see, a dip down and a lower low being created. And remember, our demand zones right here could be a potential demand zone. We have a move up, followed by consolidation, followed by another move up. So this could be an area where we retest again. This is also somewhat of a support line if we were to break below. So we could come back and retest 111,000 before moving back up again, since this demand zone, per my definition, has not been retested. But again, we'll have to see what happens there. Now, specifically looking at Ethereum looks very, very strong. However, I went over this in a reel, a TikTok short, or a YouTube short, sorry. What I think could happen with Ethereum. Now, we all know Ethereum and is really the market leader in terms of altcoins. Altcoins usually rally and will follow Ethereum's moves. So it's pretty important for a lot of altcoin holders to see Ethereum do well. That's why I wanted to point out Ethereum today. And as you guys can see, clear bullish structure here. Higher highs, higher lows being created. That's, of course, great. Look at the amount of bullish fair value gaps. It's absolutely insane. This is on the 4-hour, but on the 1-day, you can see we are pushing up very heavily here. After a long consolidation period, we're finally moving up. I labeled a demand zone here as well that's been untapped, and we also have one untapped all the way down here at the $800 range. So potentially an area where if we get into bear market territory, we see Ethereum revisit, but that's of course not guaranteed. Okay, so as you guys can see, we are nearing $4,000. Now, as we've gone over, psychological levels are definitely areas within the market of which we have to pay attention to, and some of them are not as prominent as others, but mostly for that of Bitcoin, for that of Ethereum. We saw that with Cr0w too when it approached $1 recently. These levels do matter. In this case, $4,000 would be a sell-off point, simply because it's a round hole number that a lot of people are expected to take profits from. So if I'm an investor and I see $4,000 being a place where I think a lot of investors are going to sell at, I myself most likely am going to take some profits there as well. So we've gone over this a couple of times in the channel, but expectations genuinely or do lead markets. That's basically how these markets operate, are based off expectations. So if the expectation is there that $4,000 is a good profit-taking spot or a place where a lot of traders will be taking profits from, then expectations usually lead to that actually becoming a reality. Because if everyone expects that to happen, well, then they themselves are also going to take profits at 4,000 because they themselves do not want to be essentially the person who gets sold off to, if that makes sense. So as you can see, there are two scenarios that we have happen. So let's say we touch 4,000 here and we manage to close above 4,000. In my opinion, 4,000 will then become our support level where we can then continue back upwards to potentially, we'll see honestly what happens, but $4,000, there's again two scenarios where we would need to see happen. We would need a candle close above $4,000 per token, preferably on the day and 4-hour time frame, obviously the day being the stronger of the two, because that's going to give us more confluence rather than a 5-minute close where on the day it's reflected as a wick, because wicks are just where prices moved throughout that day, but the closes matter a lot more. If we get a close above 4K, then in my opinion we are way more better off to continue up for that of Ethereum, and in turn a lot of these other altcoins are going to do very well, specifically like Cr0w. If we get a close above $4,000 on ETH for Cr0w, then there's no reason Cr0w should not close above $1, because again, we're blowing past psychological levels on ETH, so $1 psychological level on Cr0w should also be a place where we potentially do see a close above as well. So that is definitely a scenario, and then we continue pushing up and really just see what will happen. If you look at our history with ETH, we were able to get almost to 5K back in 2021 before things started crashing down. So this is also another key level to look for. If we go to 2021 and look at Ethereum, we need to understand what happened back then and what were some key levels that we should be watching for at our current time period. So I'm going to just draw out some support lines and resistance lines based off of just what I'm seeing here. So you can see here's the 4,000 mark that we drew out. Specifically, 4,000 would be like around here. And you can see $4,000 per ETH, we were bouncing off numerous times. We broke below. This is where selling pressure began to wane. You can see on the higher time frame, this is the day time frame, we went from higher highs, higher lows, boom, lower highs, lower lows, crashing down, which entered our bear market season for a lot of altcoins, but specifically for Ethereum. So we would need to, of course, watch for something like that, but more specifically, you can see how well respected the $4,000 level is. You can see earlier in 2021, before we had the major push, we actually somewhat wicked into it before coming back down. So we tested it here, could not close above. That's why I say wicks don't matter. And in this case, we did manage to close above and continuing to push upwards. And again, this is where I'm looking for. I'm looking for these key levels. So a key level could be here, right? Because look, we have a candle close. We have a body open here where we go and reject off this level. So obviously this level could be important. We get a wick down to retest, a wick down to retest, close above, candle closes here, candle open where we reject as well. Let's see, anything else? Somewhat of a rejection, I would say. And then we have a rejection here, close above, close below, and we continue down. So that would be at the $4,000 level where I think ETH would have to show some strength at as well. So this is what happens most of the times with these tokens is the levels that we touched back in 2021 for a lot of these older tokens that are definitely showing strength. Obviously XRP doesn't, that doesn't count because XRP is completely going insane. We're almost at $4 per token. But I definitely think that there is going to be some resistance to a lot of those levels back in 2021 for Ethereum. Now, that is the first example. If we close above 4K, then we could continue back upwards. However, there is another option that could happen. We come up to 4K. We do not close above 4K. We actually close below 4K. And then we get a rejection followed by something like this. This would be a clear sign that 4K was, in this scenario, a resistance line that is going to be held up until we close above. So in the event that that happens, this is what I think could happen or lead off of it. So again, we close below 4K, we continue downwards, continue downwards, and we tap this demand zone. Now, this is all the way down to $3,000 per ETH. So obviously a pretty far downside there, but then we could potentially move up. It's just genuinely going to be very based off of what else is happening within the markets at that time. But then we could get a close. Now, one thing we'd want to be aware of though is if we come retest, come again, and then we get something like this, that could be pretty bad sign of where we might want to be checking. Is this something we still would be in? Do we still want to be in the markets around this time? But as of now, everything looks healthy. Again, I'm just looking at this $4,000 level per ETH, and I think that's like the highlight of the market overall because, again, Aerodrome's going to rely on that. All these other altcoins are going to rely on ETH strength. So that is the key levels I'm looking for. That is my personal thoughts within Ethereum. I'd love to hear your guys' as well. But again, we're now going to be talking about what do we plan to do in the bear market on this channel, but also what am I going to be doing value-wise for you guys as well as for myself. And we're going to get into some bear market tips and tricks. Now, for full transparency, I was and I'm 19 right now, so I'm pretty young in the grand scheme of things. But I myself was in crypto in 2020, 2021, very shortly. I bought some Shiba Inu, and this was near the top of the market. So, of course, it's a newbie thing to do, right? I bought near the top of the market, completely got blasted. And now I'm here, 2024, January. I got back into crypto. So, kind of the start of when the bull market was really turning up. So this will be my first official bear market. And this is mostly where if you can stay active in the bear market, then you are going to be very well off. This is what I've heard from those people who have made millions with crypto and who have been able to retire themselves. If you are able to really take crypto seriously within a bear market and lock in, really take your time to understand what opportunities are within a bear market, then you're going to be pretty profitable. But also, just the more time you spend in the markets, the more lessons you're going to learn. I had so many L's this year and last year just off of mistakes I made for first coming into money and first having my first small successes within crypto that I think are just going to genuinely better me for the upcoming runs that we do see. And I'm very excited for them. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to look at is we're going to go back into 2021. here. So 2021, this is where the bear market occurred, right at this shift of higher highs, higher low, but or higher high here, but look, the strength is pretty waning. Boom, came down, higher low. This was the start of the bear market. So if we see something like this occur, there are a couple of ways we can profit off of this. First of all, if we're able to and I'm not gonna go zoom in on this, but if we were able to recognize this, we would have got a nice like 4R trade. Which it's not the best for as long as this position would have had it been open for, but you still would have caught the top essentially of the bull market, sorry. You wouldn't have caught this exact top, but you would have caught when we were going to start continuing downwards. But in the bear market, guys, this is where the opportunities lie. And I do want to point out XRP just because I know it's a coin that's been around for as long as it has, but we can actually go to Doge. We'll go to Doge. Here is where bear market opportunities lie, guys. So in 2021, we of course came down and crashed heavily with Dogecoin. And we reached around a period of around 6 cents per Doge. So 6 cents per Doge. And mind you, this is from a period of June of 2022 to around, if we're just looking at of October 2023. So a year and a half, guys, of where Doge was trading around 6 cents. So in a bear market, if you are able to, for a year and a half, let's say you got 10K worth of Doge at 6 cents, and we came all the way up here to around 50 cents, you would have almost 10x your money. I think it would have been around an 8x. It would have been around an 8x. So you would have made 80K or 70K in profit off of a $10,000 investment. Now that's assuming you only took profits then. Like you could have watched our March pump. From experience, you could have exited somewhere around here once you saw things continue or starting to die off a little. Because I actually see a way you could have told that we were going to continue downwards. You could have, wow, we're back here, rebought in and came back and sold higher and can rinse and repeat. Are you going to be able to do, was I able to do this? Not one bit. But as you go, as you learn, you will be able to catch more moves like this. I've been able to catch moves like this. Understanding TA, like a lot of it is just learning what to look for within the markets. It's going to keep you above and having an edge around mostly everyone else, like who just follows someone to listen to and, you know, doesn't actually learn it all themselves, or at least learn the basics. Like that's really all it is. But the point is, what we're going to be doing within the bear market is every single day I'm going to be active on X. I'm going to be active on YouTube. I'm going to be active on TikTok, like all these platforms. We're going to get a community together. I do not want to open a paid one yet because, again, I'm not in any way, shape, or form able to provide that value from my own eyes in the most holistic way that I can possibly provide value with. But we will be providing a free community soon. I want to do something like that. We've talked about it a little bit, but it's at least going to be a place where for free, I'm going to be, we're just all together we're all going to come together and we're all going to just discuss anything regarded to online money, improving yourself health-wise. Like that's going to be the holistic outlook of it. But of course, right now it's going to be more so focused towards crypto. So I'm excited for that. But again, during the bear market, we're going to be very active. Like that's the whole point. We don't want to just simply go into hibernation when the bear market comes around until things start heating up again. Like our edge is going to be understanding the markets, like we could literally go back and look at the 2024, 2025 run, study it. What could we have done better? Analyzing all these different things within ourselves and just the overall market to understand what could happen this upcoming cycle. Obviously, we're not even done with this one, but if you can get what I'm saying. So I'm pretty excited for the bear market. I know that might seem counterintuitive, but I'm excited because there's going to be a lot more opportunities to grow in. A lot of us are younger, but even if you're not, there's still so much more opportunity within crypto that I think crypto is one of the best places you can grow mentally and financially in. And I think there's so many more opportunities that will be available to us. So that's just a little spiel I had. I hope you guys did take something away from this video. I will have a video out on Cr0w. Actually, we're going to talk about Cr0w today. This is going to be a pretty long video. They're all time stamped. But I did want to actually get into that for you guys for Cr0w. So let's get into Cr0w real quick and show you guys something that I found out that, kind of surprised me, I'm not gonna lie, but really not at the same time. So if I look up Cr0w, this was essentially the token. We have this token, which this is a soul Cr0w. This is not the Cr0w that we know, how we've talked about before, the Cr0w terminal, the AI agent. Cr0w literally deleted their X account. Like, the team behind Cr0w deleted their X account. And if we go to CoinMarketCap and look up Cr0w by virtuals is decimated. Absolutely decimated. This was a pretty big scam. I don't think anyone's going to be talking about it. Think it, big guys. Yeah, I get it. There's literally, they deleted their X account. And I think that's what people realized around this time. But yeah, I mean, you guys can literally see all the way up we reached. I remember this when we reached 2 cents, and then absolutely decimated the price action. And this obviously is never coming back. Like, they completely destroyed their reputation. I think this was a scam. Like, genuinely, I think this is a scam. This was a scam. I got scammed on this. I had some friends who got badly scammed by this token. But that's just a risk that comes with investing in these low caps. Like, that should just be understood. So I did not have too much allocated into Cr0w. I actually pulled out a little, or the majority of it, before things went down as much as they did, thankfully, just because earlier this year I was just moving so much crypto around at all times, which I should not have done. But thankfully, I had way too much invested into Cr0w, so I was able to pull out before we had this insane dump. And yeah, this was just a big scam. Like, there's nothing really much to say about it. It had high hopes, like, just genuinely being honest, like, what it was able to do with, like, the projects I would talk about in terms of, giving technical analysis advice and all of these other things. It looked like to be some really cool project that could provide a lot of value, but as we've seen here, completely decimated the price action. And you guys can see that they're completely gone. They ghosted us. And yeah, that's just what's going to happen within the crypto market. You're going to have scammers come around like this who will have these high hopes. Red flags will start popping up. Like, I remember when they weren't following their roadmap. This was before they deleted everything. They weren't following their roadmap, and should have been the red flag to get out of there. As you can see, yeah, just horrible dump here. It just happens within the market. Like, really, I'm not surprised, but just sucks because, sometimes you will have high hopes with the project and they'll just do something like this and it just kind of kills everything. There's another one that I was in called H4ck. I'm curious on H4ck as well. Is it basically the same exact thing? So H4ck is also down, obviously, and this was around the same time in June. H4ck looks to be completely dead as well. I don't know if their X account is up, because I do know they had an X account. Oh, okay. So they, good on them. They still do have their X account open, but it appears to be that they stopped posting around June as well. I don't know what happened in June where all these AI agents just kind of stopped. But, I mean, yeah, you can see that looks to be as H4ck kind of dumped on their followers too, or on their investors as well. For some reason, it says the FDV is 0, so I don't think there's genuinely any money within H4ck, like, according to CoinMarketCap. So AI agents kind of came and went. If you missed like a jump from here to here, well, then you're pretty much, you got screwed over. It sucks to see again, like it's never fun to see like a scam happen within crypto, but you just got to learn from it and just got to move on. And just, take the lesson and keep moving. Like that's what I had to do with Cr0w, at least. Like I was in here hack for like a day and I got out just because, again, back then I was just very, I don't know what the word is, just impatient, I guess, with some of these plays. I just didn't feel right about them, and clearly I was right. But that's basically it over Cr0w and Hack. Just wanted to cover those. But I hope you guys genuinely did take something away from this video. This probably is my longest video to date, 31 minutes. But I just want to provide the most value I can. This is the way we're going to do it. Once we do move into a paid membership, which probably won't be for a long time, by the way, the free membership or the free Discord will be something that comes up very soon. But as long as paid stuff, I think I want to move into a route of doing so with one-on-one, so helping people with their own portfolios. But again, that has to come with me mastering my own, mastering trading, mastering figuring out, where I can pull all my information from. All these different things need to come out before I release some course, and I won't do a course. If there's a course, it'll be provided with something. It won't be like a separate thing you have to buy. But I'm pretty excited about all this, guys. And yeah, we're gonna see what happens with the crypto market, see how long this bull run ends up lasting. And that's gonna be it for me today, guys. So if you enjoyed content like this, please let me know if there's anything that I could change to make it better, change to, whatever it is. Let me know. I appreciate all the support, guys, and I'll see you later.